Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, April 15th, 2021. Time is 9:02 a.m. This is the weekly meeting of our Community Development Organization. Attending for the Board of County Commissioners, Leslie Duncan, Bill Brooks, and of course myself, Chris Fillios. And we will call on Pat Braden, please, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I don't have any opening remarks since there's only one item. Excuse me, potential conflicts of interest. I don't know where they'd weigh in here. Changes to the agenda? None. And of course, we have no deliberations this morning. We have one single item, and an important one at that, which is a community development update. And it's the overview of the growth management white paper as prepared by our community development group. So I'll turn it over to Director Callahan. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Some time ago, you'll recall, we discussed at one of these meetings your and our concerns about growth. I offered up that we could do a white paper purely as an informational piece. And so that's what we have done. We really just tried to outline the things we know from experience, personal and otherwise, have worked in other communities. And we also included the two seminal cases that actually started growth management in this country, so you would at least have an understanding of how things have evolved and that the courts have supported these things over time. It's fair to say that most municipalities these days model their attempts at growth management after Petaluma and Ramapo to some degree, because they know that it'll withstand challenge if that needs to go there. I really hadn't planned on going into any of the details because I thought it'd be better to just have a dialogue. Mm-hmm. If you have questions or suggestions, want more information, mm-hmm. And the other thing, just to open things up for discussion, I'm reminded of the reason I thought of the growth paper. I had an instructor professor at Texas Tech, MIT graduate. He was often reminding me that it's hard to make a decision in a vacuum. Ever since then, I've tried to provide information and be knowledgeable of what's up, because it does work out better if you know more. So that was really the starting point for this. I hope it's useful, but that's all I had in case, I'll just open up now in case you have comments or want to go further with it.
Questions? Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, make sure we're
talking about the conservation cluster designs, it says near the bottom of page 8, requiring conservation cluster designs for all major subdivisions could help. So I guess I would want to know, I mean, if you had a subdivision of 300 acres and they want 20-acre parcels, why would we require them to cluster?
You would only go this way as a board, mm-hmm. and presumably with community support, with the notion and belief that it's better to consolidate lots into tighter squeeze so they wouldn't be 20 acres. They'd be smaller lots. With the notion that a development is better if you trade off open space for condensing lots next to infrastructure. It's an ideological viewpoint. So, you don't have to go there, but that's...
I was just going to say another thing you could do if you didn't want to require that is you could, one, you could require in certain circumstances, not in others, and two, you could, incentivize.
Yeah.
We had, the incentive of bonus density in the past.
It didn't get used much.
Right.
And that's why we took it out.
And it wasn't politically popular either at the time.
But there are other incentives we could offer besides
Right.
just density.
Right.
So I guess the real question is to you is, do you think this sort of thing resonates with the community or not? Would it be useful? Is it something to discuss? I'll be talking to the pachyderms tomorrow. I plan to bring it up and say,
Kind
what
of,
do you think?
oh, sorry, Dave. And as an aside too, there, in, my reading of it and editing, I recognize there were things, that were in this white paper that probably would not be politically popular necessarily, at least right now, but we wanted to put as many options on the table as possible as well.
Sure. I think this is a definite worthwhile conversation to have with the public, for sure, to see where they feel like they want to go. Can we talk about the TDRs, the
Sure.
transfers of development rights?
That's the next page.
Yeah. So just to make sure that I understand it right, you have this land, but you also have this land, and this person pays this person not to develop so they can develop. Is that,
Yeah, that's it in a
That's it.
nutshell.
wow,
And the logic behind it is that in our case, you, the board, and the plan commission would work through what are the lands that we ought to preserve. That's tough,
right?
but it's doable. I worked
Okay.
for a place for 12 years that had done it.
Okay.
And, it takes years, literally, to go through all that. But once you do and you get political agreement, then you send the rights to development off of the areas you want to preserve to somewhere where you think they ought to land.
Okay.
And in our area, that may, could involve coordination with our cities as well, potentially, if they were willing to consider something like that. That was the example that, from King County in Washington, that,
Right.
sometimes it makes more sense to develop more densely in downtown Seattle than in some of the very rural areas of that county.
Right, because it talked about the ability to go up, so
Right.
they bought their ability to
Right.
expand,
Of
okay.
course, the cities would have to be on board with that,
Right,
but it's
exactly.
entirely doable.
So I imagine you could use this